Hello and welcome back to part 4 of this Introduction to Intergalactic Fishing video series. I'm Ben, I'm the developer of Intergalactic Fishing, and since the last video, I've advanced the main quest a few stages to the point where you get a special new teleporter that allows you to teleport to random unknown lakes located somewhere in the universe. I won't get into too much detail about this story so as not to spoil anything, but I've been asked to go out with this teleporter and explore some of these unknown lakes. I've also been given a special module that can gather and store data about these lakes. So I have an exploration kit here. I'll first need to scan the lake and compile some information about it, and then I'll need to catalog the fish species in the lake by catching some of them. And after that, after I collect all that data, I can sell it for some credits. So I've got a new teleporter here, which allows me to teleport to unknown lakes. So if we go to the travel panel, we'll see a new option here, and we can go ahead and teleport to one of these unknown lakes and see what we find. These lakes have not been discovered by anyone, so we won't see anyone else out here. We don't have any information about this lake. We don't even know, we don't even have a map generated. We don't know anything about the fish in the lake, but we do have this exploration kit, which we can start running scans on the lake and get more information about it. We don't know anything so far, and then once our scans start to complete, we can get some information. So we have the watercolor, and we can see. We have gravity. We can see as this information is scanned and discovered, then it's added to our exploration data list. And the more information we get and the more complete that information is, the more this will be worth when we sell it. So in order to get complete data for a lake, we're going to need to catch some of the fish in the lake and dissect them and learn about them. So as we wait for this to finish, we could go ahead and start getting ready to fish. We can see, it's scanning for the temperature and the visibility factor of the water. We've got some information about the size of the lake, the mean depth, max depth, as well as the volume and the surface area. We have the day-night cycle, so this is almost a 43-hour day with almost 28 hours of it being daylight. We still have 18 hours until it gets dark here, so that's a pretty good chunk of time. And the last thing it scans for, it generates the maps, and then it scans for anomalies. So we don't detect any anomalies here, so nothing out of the ordinary. We can check out the map here, and we can also look at the topographical map and see kind of where the deep spots are. So we've got a few different areas that are kind of deep. So we might take a look at those if we're trying to, catch all the fish species in the lake. There might be some hiding at the bottom there. Okay, so we don't know anything about the species in the lake, so we can just start fishing, do some exploratory fishing. We might want to use some different lures so that we have some different some different types of lures that fish might be likely to bite. So we'll just start with our Sally Swindler that we made in the last video, and it's a topwater lure, so we will just bring it across the surface up here and see if we can come up with any fish. There's something hit that as soon as it hit the water, so that might be a good spot. See what we got here. Okay, so that's a pretty good sized fish. It's almost 10 pounds. So now we can see in our fish journal that we have a new species that we've discovered. Probably want to go ahead and dissect this fish so we can get more information, and that looks to be it was a pretty good size fish for its species. Unlike unlike whenever we're in the alt network lakes, we don't have a lake record or anything, obviously, because no one's been here before. No one knows anything about these fish. So we've got two pieces of information. If we go back to our lake data, we can see now that we've compiled some species information, and that increases our completeness factor. So it's now up to 0.4, and you know, the higher that gets, it's basically just a multiplier of the base value. So the higher the completeness factor gets, the more that all your data is worth. So, you know, more complete data is worth quite a bit more than incomplete data. So we'll keep trying over in this area. That was a pretty good good fish. So there's one. We had another hit there. Pulled it under. Let's see what we got here. Okay, that's another one of the same species that we caught. So we'll go ahead and dissect that one too. And we can see that we're getting some information. So, you know, we'll take a look and see how our lure compares. It's not bad. It's pretty good. We could look at changing to a different lure if we wanted to. And that one actually seems to be a pretty good fit, so we'll stick with this one for now and see if we can't keep catching some of these. There's something. And it looks like another one of the same species. Oops. So dissect that. Got a bird making some noise over there. Alright, there's another one. So we've only been catching this one species, which it's possible this is the only species in the lake, but it's also possible that we're just fishing with a lure that it likes, and you can see that's pretty much the case. We've just now discovered everything about this species, and this lure is pretty good for this species. Found in shallow water, which makes sense. That's where we've been casting. And we can check back to our data. We can see now we've got a completeness factor of 0.63. So our total value for this exploration data is getting pretty high. I think we might check out one of these deep holes and see if we can catch a different type of fish. So I'm going to head down here to the south. There's a big area here that's pretty deep. And I will need to change lures because these are both topwater lures that we've been using. So I'll go back to this starter lure that we have been using in the past. We could obviously create our own, but I won't take time to do that right now. So we're going to let this sink to the bottom and see if we can find anything down there. So I'm just going to let it sit down there for a little while, see if anything grabs it. So, okay, there, I moved it a little bit and something hit it, so we'll see if we can bring this up. We got a pretty strong rod, so this fish isn't giving us too much trouble. Okay, yeah, so that's a new type of species. We'll go ahead and dissect this one as well, and we can get some information, and we see that, you know, the color of this lure that we're using is pretty spot on for this fish, so this might be a pretty decent lure. We'll keep trying in the same area, see if we can get a few more of these. Try to move it a little bit again, see if that helps. Yeah, there we go. Something was pulling it a little bit. So we're going to try to get it up to the surface. Could be the same species, or it could be a different one. Yeah, and it looks like it's the same species, so we'll go ahead and dissect that one too. That one's not very big, so it didn't give us much progress. There we go. That's looks like a pretty good size one. It hit that pretty hard. So we have to be careful with this one. Might have a pretty good sized fish here. Yeah, it's pulling pretty hard, pulling down away from us. Fortunately, we've got a good strong rod, so we would have a lot more trouble getting this fish in on the rod we were using previously. Okay, that's a brand new species there. And it's almost 10 pounds. Wow, that's really good. Okay, so we will go ahead and dissect this one too. This should give us a lot of information since it's such a big fish. So we've got, yeah, like, what, four pieces of information. We can go back to our exploration data, and we can see now that we are just about to a 1.0 completeness factor. 0.99 is where we're at, and you can see that the value of our data is going up quite a bit. So now we're up to 173 credits worth for this data. Might just try to catch one more fish. We're just going to let it sit on the bottom here, right under our boat at the very bottom of the lake. We're going to go ahead and bring it up. Move a little bit and try again. So it's pretty deep. It takes a little while to sink. And there we go. Something's grabbed it. Looks like probably not as big as the last one, but it's decent. Let's go ahead and try to get this in the boat. Yeah, okay, so it's that second fish we caught. So we can dissect that one. And that'll give us some more information. So we've got a pretty good amount of information for the species in this lake. So that's going to put our completeness factor at 1. So anything that we get, it's worth its full value. So we could continue, you know, filling in this information about these species, or we can go ahead and go back and sell this data, you know, or travel to a new unknown lake. We can store up to 10 sets of data. So, oh yeah, one more thing. Now these are like random lakes, and you can't return to them unless you save them in your teleporter. So this teleporter has slots for 4 different lakes. So if you wanted to come back here, if you find this is a good lake for fishing, has some good fish in it, you might want to come back here. So we could save it here, and then we could come back to it later. But otherwise, you're not going to be able to return to these lakes once you leave. So we're going to go ahead and go to another unknown lake. And this is a pretty weird one. It looks like it's got some ice shelves, maybe. Yeah, okay. We will do a scan here. So it would be pretty useful to have a short-range teleporter about right now so that we could get to these other areas, because we're not going to be able to cover much ground without, you know, in our boat as it is. So you can see we're getting information about this lake. It's very cold here. The water has a high visibility factor, which is good. It's not too deep. The mean depth is only 3 meters. It's a pretty small lake. Yeah, so here's our topographical map. It's very shallow. There's hardly any deep spots at all. So this is a pretty interesting lake, and this is, you know, you'll come across some weird stuff when you're out here exploring. So I think this is a good place to stop. I guess I will end this video series here. Hopefully these videos have given you a proper introduction to the game and what it has to offer. There's still a lot in the game that I haven't covered. There are tournaments you can participate in. There's a main story quest, which we did a little bit of, but there's still a lot of more interesting things to uncover there. You've got the 65 alt network lakes to explore and many side quests and events to discover. And then of course you've got countless unknown lakes out there for you to discover and explore. If you want to know more about the game or keep up to date as I work on it, I've put the link to the Steam page in the description, as well as links to my Twitter and to the website where you can check out the dev blog. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a good one.